All right, welcome to our meeting, everybody. We'll go ahead and jump right in. Um, Here's our bell. Hold tight.
Yay.
And with that, if you're a Rotarian, go ahead and unmute yourself, and we'll do our four-way test. So, of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth?
Is
the truth?
Is
it
it
fair
fair
to all concerned?
concerned?
Will it build goodwill and
Better
friendships? Will it be beneficial to all?
beneficial to all concerned.
All right, let's take a peek here at visitors and guests. Let me get all my little windows up. Are
Look
there
who's
any
back.
guests?
Yannika's back.
Yay. Hi.
Yay. Hi. She's dressed for summer. Look at her.
Yeah.
Finished summer.
It's I'm sure it's warm everywhere. That's what we're all about. It's talking about that reason.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see any other guests. I think we're good there. All right. Any updates from our chairs? Open mic for the chairs.
Nothing from fellowships.
All right.
Nothing from foundation.
All right. Cool. So we'll go ahead and jump into announcements. You guys probably should have just got the emails. There's two emails that you would have received that are informative and helpful. Number one was from Susie. So thank you, Susie, for the newsletter. Make sure you take a look at that. And then number two, just before a little bit before the call, I got the alert or the email. I'm not sure if everybody else did, but your Rotary magazine is out for August. So I didn't have a chance to peek through there and see what kind of good content that there was available, but make sure you read that. And maybe next week I'll give you some highlights if anyone's interested. Any other announcements before I move on, though, for the good of the club? Anything to share? Go ahead, Susie.
Karaz just emailed me, he's had to drop out of the club, but he did want me to tell everyone there's a play he's going to be in August 2nd through September 8th at Melbourne Civic Theater. It's a comedy. They do comedies at that place, and he's in it, and he wanted us to know about it in case we could possibly make it. So cool. I'll try to put together a group. Maybe we can all go. And since Marcy lives in Palm Bay, maybe she can join us.
I live right on the edge. Right on the edge of Melbourne. So
that's my philosophy.
I do live on the edge. Yes,
living on the edge. That's my philosophy.
All right, great. Any other announcements? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and jump into I Fix the Planet. If I don't see your hand, go ahead and speak up. I think I got all my views here. Anybody got anything they want to share for I Fix the Planet?
I watched the video. I didn't have fixed much, but it was interesting.
Jula?
Yes, we have started the District Treacly app. So if you're on the Treacly app, if you go ahead over and get onto the district one, you'll plant twice as many trees.
Very
cool.
Good.
I'll look. I wish it would track, but
very good. I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait. That's exciting. Tell me what I need to do again, Julia. You just
need to enter the code, which is, I can give that to you right here.
I'm gonna add it right here.
Yeah, if you will. Yep. Together, District 6930. Whoops.
I'm gonna permanently join. I'll put our code and the other code on there.
Yep, the number 9. L like Larry. Let me know when you're ready.
Sorry, I'm not able to do a text box here. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, I'll add it here. 9 Mary.
9 Larry. 2 Yellow Lima Zebra.
All right, got it.
The district one.
That's official NATO terminology.
No, that's not the official NATO.
It's pretty darn close, Kimberly.
L is Lima. L is Lima.
Okay,
sorry, I grew up on the NATO.
For the record, I was totally joking. Just for the record.
I grew up with the NATO alphabet, so
I can't believe I would think that I was
the only one I use.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go jump into our Sergeant at Arms. If anybody wants to jump in, I'll start off with let's do birthdays, anniversaries.
Tomorrow is my son and daughter-in-law's anniversary. It's weird. Their second one. They got divorced years ago, lived together, and then got remarried a couple years ago. So tomorrow's their second anniversary.
I guess you have to celebrate the second one in that case, I guess.
I don't know which one I celebrate. I just send them a card and money. Here you go.
Oh, wait.
Enjoy.
All right. And Neil and I, we've been married now 28 years. There we go.
Wow.
I got
Congratulations.
that.
Congratulations.
Wow, 28 years. That's
I
great.
know, right? Who
That's
figured? There you go.
That's fun. I always do the math, by the way. So that's the fun game I play. I did it to my wife when we first got married. I said, your parents just had their X anniversary. And I said, huh, you're not
Yeah.
born until, oh. And my wife
Yeah.
was,
But we
Good
could
Catholic
do
family.
math there, but Neil would be like, yeah, let's not. So there we go.
That's fun. Any other, let's see, how about sad bucks? Anything sad about the Olympics? I don't know. I don't know, Ailish. I watched the female boxing. I was sad. Your Irish gal, I forgot her name. But she didn't move on yesterday. I watched the boxing. So if there's any sad bucks for Olympics, chime in on those two. Jula?
Yeah, I have a sad dollar. I sent an email to both our club president and our secretary with a message to read, but I've not heard it during announcements.
Uh-oh.
One of you
All
have
right.
it.
In that
All
case,
right.
somebody
I'll,
spell it.
I'll throw in a sad buck there too. There you go.
For what?
Shit.
You send them a message about what?
I sent every club president and every club secretary in the district a message because I'm getting several complaints on politics in the clubs. So I've actually gone through
I thought this was about the Olympics. I'm sorry.
Forgive me. I didn't realize that I was supposed to share. I got it. No problem. I got it 100%. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I didn't realize I was supposed to read it to the group. I'm sorry. But I did read it.
That's good.
I'm happy to pull it up though.
You
No
need to send it
problem.
to every member.
Let's see here if I can grab the message.
Was one of them our old club?
Here we go.
Right.
So again, forgive me. I don't want to
Thank you.
misrepresent. So we need to rise above. So here I'm going to paraphrase. So if at all possible, well, not at all, but it would be possible, of course, when feasible, let's try to keep ourselves in check, to rise above and leave all politics out of our meetings, our events, our projects, things like that. So bringing politics into the club can cause distractions. It can divide us and take away from the mission of service above self. So with that, let's make sure that we're focused on those kind of services, bettering ourselves, bettering our communities, et cetera, but staying as far away from politics as is possible. Anything to add there, Jula?
No, thank you, Sam, but it
Okay.
is, I mean, I've had several clubs, different clubs, our own club emailing me that it's an issue, so just trying to
Good.
nip it in the bud.
Totally.
Thank you.
All right. Where do we leave off? Happy Bucks?
Well, I am happy for the Irish swimmer, that the Irish female swimmer that won an event and got a gold medal. I don't remember what event. I mean, I'm Olympic out and it's only the first week, but something in the water, and it was a young Irish lass, and she took a gold. So I think that's
She actually didn't. She took bronze.
oh well, she got a medal then.
She got a medal. She got bronze, but it was totally unexpected because she wasn't even tipped to, to do anything. But she pulled out all the stops on the day and she got bronze. So it was great.
Good for her. Well, you're
Yeah.
now competing with the women's gymnastics team finals. So
Yeah, they're also doing really well in rowing. They go through to the finals in rowing, and they go through to the finals in something else as well. I can't remember what.
wonderful.
I don't keep up with it all that well. But anyway.
Yannick?
Yeah. Hi. So I have a happy bag about my new dog that I just adopted a few weeks ago.
Aw,
He's a 6-year-old Chihuahua that got a new life. He's a rescue dog. So that's my
Wow.
happy bug.
Aw.
And
That's
also
wonderful.
my new job. I have started in a new job. So I still work in the same company, in the insurance company, but I changed the team. So now I will be doing recruiting. So I'm a talent acquisition coordinator now.
That's great. That's
Excellent.
great.
So I have,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. Well, I hope the little guy or gal, I hope they survive the Finnish spring, fall and winter.
Yeah, he will. He
Yeah.
actually, they said that he likes winter. So,
Oh, nice.
so
Nice.
that's good.
He's in a good
Great.
place.
Yeah.
Jula?
Yeah, I have a happy 10 that I'm able to be here today. I've had a very busy July.
Very, very good. We can certainly appreciate that. Susie and Dave. Dave, I saw your hand up earlier too. So Susie.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead, Dave. Dave's been up longer.
anyway, well, I have sort of a sad and happy dollar. My wife got thrown off a horse last week, was in the hospital for several days with fractured ribs on both sides and some issues in her back and down near her tailbone. But they sent her home from the hospital on Sunday. And so she's doing all right. Now I just ordered a recliner for her that I just got delivered. So I'll be putting that together this afternoon, and that'll help her get it up and down because she's been sleeping on the couch right now. But
aw.
so far, so good. It'll just be a few weeks more.
Well, tell her to get well quickly, and I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, thank you.
Susie?
Yeah, I have a happy dollar. I'm getting a Ugandan youth study exchange student. And Julie, you're getting her too at the end of the year. And I finally heard from her today on WhatsApp because I assume we passed the background check because we weren't allowed to she wasn't allowed to reach out to us until we got approved that we're not, creepy people. So last I heard, at first they said she wasn't going to get here. Her visa she didn't have a visa appointment until August 20th, even though school starts August 12th. But she said today that she might have an appointment on August 13th. So she might
has
be
one
here
August
earlier than
6th.
we-
August
No,
6th.
It's now August 6th, because that was this morning. She said August
Yeah.
16th, or 13th.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. Then, and of course I leave August 21st to the 29th to go to a wedding in England. So, but I've got it worked out, so it'll all be good. So, but I'm excited that she'll be here. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Any others? All right. Well, I think that does it. Can I hand off to someone to provide our welcome?
Julie, do you want
Sorry,
to?
if I could just interrupt, I just got a message from Finola, and she said that her computer is telling her that she's blocked from opening the link for our meeting today, and that she should contact the owner. So I don't know what's going on there. Just letting you know.
I have no idea what that means. Do you, Sam?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyone?
Not sure.
I'll email her and see if I can send her a separate link, but
I would, I mean, it might be a work computer or an organization computer that's managed by someone or something. I don't know.
no, she's not working for anyone. I'll email her right now. So Julia, if you'll introduce Marcy, or let the woman who needs no introduction. How about that?
I'll be happy to introduce her. So yeah, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today, past district governor, but my favorite title for her is friend, Marcy Ullum. She is a member of District 6990, which is the district south to us, and she is also a member of an E-Club. I've known Marcy for several years. She actually did my installation and installed me as governor, so it's kind of her fault. I'll blame you, Marcy. But with that said, let me give you Marcy. Thank you for being here, Marcy.
No, happy to do so, but let me just be really clear about this. I am no expert in this. Because we're a virtual club, because I also belong to a virtual club, because we are also environmentally focused, we look at not only speakers coming in, but we identify either articles or stories or documentaries that we watch, and then we just talk about it. And so Susie and I met at Julah's, I don't know what that was. Was that an assembly, a leadership?
Yeah, our district assembly. Yep.
At the end of June, and had a conversation, and she said, well, will you come lead a discussion? So basically, what I really need to know, let me start with this. Who actually saw the documentary or any portion of it? Okay, great. So at least 3 of you have seen it. So it was a little bit
I
longer
did.
than oh, you did. Great. Perfect. Thank you. So let me just start with, what did you think? There's a follow-up documentary to that called Common Ground, but it wasn't as easily available as the Kiss the Ground. So what did you actually think about it?
If you don't mind, I'll go.
No, go.
I thought it was really cool. I have seen it a couple of times previously. I watched it again yesterday, just so it was kind of fresh. But some of the information, like, I really liked where they had the graph or the display of the reds and the blues when they were talking the months of the year.
Right.
It got to June, how that kind of all went away. I never realized until I watched it the first time about the CO2, that the soil can absorb the CO2. So another good thing. So a couple of takeaways there.
I watched it, Marcy, I watched it with my little boy, actually. And so I call it a science lesson or whatever. And you know, he didn't pick up on everything, of course. And then my wife came in kind of halfway through, and she was watching, very interested as well. So same things you said, Julah. I think the scene where the colors are changing, where they're looking at the CO2,
right,
and how that correlates to the tilling versus the growth. That was really fascinating. But my curiosity was like, so like, if we know all these things, like he is the government, if we know all these things, how is this allowed? Like, I'm from Louisiana, and so we've been not eating our own food in our backyard because of DDT for years, and we know we're not supposed to trust the government. Everybody knows that. But like, where do the two things, like, how do we justify this? Like, the government is telling us don't do this, and the government's also encouraging us, the nation, to do this. That was the thing that kind of threw me for a loop. Like, is he fired, by the way? Have we checked?
Is it?
Has somebody checked on this guy? Is he fired, by the way? Does he still work for the government? Like,
well, the other one was the regenerative guy. Kimberly, you had your hand up. I wanted to.
Yeah, I had watched the Ken Burns series on the buffalo, and hadn't realized how, if you haven't seen that, it ties in very well with this, because we started decimating that land in an effort to get rid of the First Nation people a long time ago. And they managed to do that. And so by the time the farmers moved in, you know, they got that 40 acres and a whatever, and they moved out to Kansas and Nebraska. And then the Dust Bowl started. That land was already in trouble. That soil was already in trouble.
Right.
And the policies, I was glad to see that they're working with the farmers to try to get them to change, but sort of like Sam, you know, this started with the Soil Conservation Corps. This is 2024. The Soil Conservation Corps was 70, 80 years ago. What's taken so long, and why are we allowing these chemicals to be sold? I mean, is it, you know, not big pharma, but Archer Daniels Midland and those other companies,
Monsanto, follow the money.
Monsanto and Dow and some of the rest of them. Why do we allow this? And I know why we allow this. I work in Washington, D.C. I know exactly why we allow this, but it's still infuriating.
Right. Linda.
Thank you. You know, this was a really hard one to watch for me, from my perspective, because so much of what was talked about wasn't really based on good science. So I was a little frustrated with some of it. You know, the parts about the soil, I really love that part because, yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. And I can tell you that Extension for 100 years plus has been trying to get farmers to stop doing some of these practices. But, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what regulations are in place or what educational programs are in place. If there's money to be made doing it one way, that's the way it's going to get done, y'all. And, you know, when you ask about the pesticides, you know, pesticides are heavily regulated in this country. There are laws. For example, it is illegal to use that concoction, that homemade concoction that is all over Facebook, you know, using vinegar, salt, and baking soda or whatever it is. It is illegal to use that to kill organisms. But that proliferates because people are just so ignorant of the laws when it comes to pesticides. So like the whole glyphosate section really bugged me because I'm so tired of hearing people talking about glyphosate causing cancer. You know, the studies that this guy cited in this documentary were either studies that weren't done well or studies that were taken out of context. So for example, yes, glyphosate will cause cancer if you are using it improperly. And so these folks who are filing lawsuits against Monsanto, and I'm not a Monsanto fan here, so I'm not advocating for this, okay? I'm just saying that these lawsuits are being put forth by people who have misused glyphosate. And so, yes, they got cancer. And I could talk for a long time about examples that I've experienced when I was an educator on pesticide use, how these people misuse pesticides, don't follow the label directions, and they get sick. And so then all of a sudden, glyphosate is the most evil thing on the planet. I'd be more concerned about plastics than I am about glyphosate. And so I think, you know, it's really challenging when you watch a documentary like this and start just taking it all in hook, line, and sinker. And if you don't have expertise on the topic, it's all very believable. And that's really frustrating. I have expertise on the topic, so I'm just watching it going, but then the parts about soils is like, yes, tell people how important soils are and that they're wonderful. And, you know, there are more than 2 billion organisms in 1 cubic foot of soil. Soil is alive and it's wonderful. You know, so I had, you know, I had a lot of feelings, a lot of mixed emotions about the documentary. I had heard about it, so I really was happy to have the opportunity to watch it.
Linda, what about the regenerative farming part where you talked about the no-till tillers and stuff like that? Is
Yeah,
that
man, yeah, there's more and more farms are using no-till, but there are a lot of farms that still till, as you saw in the video. I mean, that's true.
it was
And
particularly sad to me that his next door neighbor farm was a complete desert. And
yeah,
the guy, whoever this person is, hasn't learned anything from what the farmer was doing
Yeah.
with his land.
yeah.
And
But-
I mean, it
but-
just,
Let me ask that question of why not? Because I grew up in farm country, big corporate farm country. I grew up when it was still little individual farms, and then it's now become corporate. I grew up in the Midwest. So why do you think the farmers haven't all jumped on board with that
It
particular?
boils down to money, Marcy. It's
Sure.
cheaper to go ahead and till it. It's faster, it's cheaper. It requires less labor to till it and plant. I too am from the Midwest. I grew up in corn country. My first job was detasseling corn.
Ah, yes. Did you cut corn out of beans?
Oh yeah.
Then,
yeah.
okay. Where
Oh,
did you grow
yeah.
up, Linda?
I grew up in Indiana.
Oh, Illinois. Okay.
Okay, well, same difference. Soil, same difference. Yeah. So it's just I think it, you know, and we tell farmers stuff, you know, like I said, Extension, we educate farmers. We've been doing it for decades here in the United States. And they either just want to do it their way because that's how they've always done it. But with the corporate farms, it's all about money. They don't care if they deplete the soil. They'll move somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Ailish.
I was very interested I was very interested in one aspect of the film, in all aspects of it, but one in particular was was the contribution by Gabby Brown. I found that this is a guy from North Dakota. I found that having him at the forefront of the documentary to a substantial extent, and his input and what he has done on his own farm and what he is doing to help other farmers, particularly small family farms actually nationwide, was extraordinarily really enlightening. And God, there's another word I'm trying to think of, and it just won't come to me. Old age and the menopause. Marcy.
I hear you.
But
I hear you, Haley.
but to me that was a very important component of the whole film. And I liked the fact that they put emphasis on who he was, how he had operated before, how he nearly lost everything, and then was able to grapple with his circumstances and draw it back in and enhance his own income and enhance his land, and being able to convince other farmers to do likewise, because it really will come down to the farm. And I think that somebody mentioned earlier about Monsanto Roundup, and that Roundup has been banned in the EU since December 2023, and rightly so, because it was beginning to destroy the land. India, unfortunately, has bought into it, and it is absolutely decimating small farmers, of which they are the very vast majority in India. And they need the land, they need the food, and it's just not going to happen if they continue to use Roundup, which they are.
So I want to point out one thing about that farmer who, took a tremendous amount of time and effort to change over his farming. But he also did two things that I think were different. And I think it's one of the challenges for bigger farmers, corporate farmers, is he went back to having livestock and moving the livestock around, which then, helps the soil. And not every farmer, my friends married farmers. I left, but my friends married farmers. They got out of the livestock business because it wasn't competitive enough, right? And this was at the time when the whole grass-fed meat wasn't a big thing, right? It was just you either sold your livestock or you didn't. So they did that. He also had alternative crops. He used alternative crops. He didn't use kind of more the traditional thing. So he could kind of spread his, his income over courses of things. So what I found interesting is that whole issue of, well, first the regenerative farming because of where I come from, but also the fact that some of those experts, and Linda, again, you are an expert in some of this stuff. Oh, wait a minute. You're making notes. I can't. Yeah. You mean they lost it because of the land, or they lost it because they combined into bigger corporate farms?
They lost it due to urbanization and development.
Right. And that's what we're seeing. So if you look at climate change, where the big emphasis always is on fossil fuel, and then in this documentary, they said soil has more of an impact than fossil fuel. I thought that was really kind of interesting because it's not something that's talked about at all. And I was curious as to why not, and how much of that had to do with the politics of climate change.
All of it. I think all of it has to do with politics of climate change. Yeah.
Right.
I liked it when he said that he didn't want to be on welfare anymore because his farm was subsidized.
Right.
So when you look at like Big Sugar down in the Everglades, those guys are filthy rich, and they're basically paid a supplement to grow sugarcane just to hurt Cuba. What was that, 65 years ago, 70 years ago, 60 years ago anyway?
Right.
Just to hurt the Cubans. And those guys are still living on that. And they are really rich just because they've got all this government underwriting them. The government underwrites them, same as corn and soybeans and stuff. He mentioned that in the video. It's all underwritten by the government.
Alice, do you have something or your hand's still up? So I didn't.
Sorry, if my hand's still up. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Beg your
That's all
pardon.
right. No,
Beg your
no,
pardon.
I just had looked away and then looked back and I didn't know. You know, I thought the other interesting comment was this one that was by 2050, 2/3 of the world would be there'd be complete decertification. And I thought to myself, wow, that's like 25 years away. And yet nobody seems to be terrible. I mean, I don't know, Linda, perhaps in your
What are you doing?
circle, there are, you know, people are really focused on that, but I don't think everyday people are really paying attention to that. And yet it's everyday people who really need to change it. Why do you, I mean, I have a theory about why that is, but I mean, why people aren't paying attention, but I'm curious if you all have any thoughts about why we're not really paying attention to that.
Are you talking about climate change, Marcy? I kind of lost you there for a moment.
So, you know, there was a point where they said 2/3 of the world will be desertification by 2050. That's 25 years away. I mean, all of us on this call can remember 25 years ago, it wasn't that far away. And yet there does not seem to be a huge emphasis on this particular aspect. And I'm curious as to, you know, I mean, you talk about fossil fuel and then there's this huge focus on electricity. I mean, electrical vehicles and battery powered vehicles, which is still kind of crazy in my mind because electrical vehicles still run on fossil fuel, or they need fossil fuel to be made. But I was just curious what you all thought about that particular component. If 2/3 of the world is going to be desert in 25 years, how come we're not concerned about that? Or you're not seeing that?
Yeah, I think you know, a lot of research has been done on why people don't change and why people don't listen to experts. And it's for all the reasons that you might imagine. You know, we come in with our biases and we're just not going to change. And so much of it is perpetuated by perpetrated too.
I was gonna say it might be the right word.
Full purpose there, yeah.
By politicians and the media also. I blame the media for a lot of it because they aren't reporting on the reality of what's happening. You know, I mean, I was, you know, I'm on climate change, national climate change committees, and we met yesterday, and you know, the frustration of, you know, how even some of the organizations in this country, federal organizations, are not paying attention and are not collaborating or you know, aren't coming together to work. We've got to work together. This isn't something that Marcy can do alone or I can do alone. We have to all work together. And, you know, we're trying to get NOAA and we're trying to get all these organizations, USGS and all these federal organizations to come together as one to start working together on these issues. And, you know, we just can't get everyone to budge. And a lot of it has to do with politics. People are so afraid to come together and start talking about this. You know, here in Florida, you know, climate change is now a dirty word, right? So all of us in Extension who do work on climate change are basically just, you know, trying to run under the radar. Well, when you're doing that, it really hampers your ability to get the word out. But more importantly, to your point, Marcy, people just don't believe it's happening. They just simply think it is the government's will to make this some kind of it's conspiracy crap, really, is what it boils down to. I don't know how to put it more eloquently. You know, I mean, that's just basically what it is. And so it's just really hard. And so what we're trying to do in Extension is we're trying to work broadly with organizations and government agencies and really trying to look at it that way. But we're focused now. I mean, we're not going to stop climate change. It's happened. We already done the damage. So now we've got to live with the consequences of that. So now we're really, you know, the buzzword in my world now is adaptation. How do we start adapting, right? So for example, in the United States, it is illegal to make landlords put air conditioning in their rental buildings, in their homes. We can force them to put heat in, but we can't force them to put air conditioning in. So you think about as the country continues to heat, you know, it's policies like that have to get changed so that we can adapt and help people, because that's going to become a real issue.
And there are plenty of, Ailish, I want to call on you, but I want to just follow up because one of the books I'm reading right now is something called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And in one of the chapters, what he references is, and he references climate change, is that for us, all of us here on this phone, on this call, that the change is so small, we don't see it. Now, we may say something like we go someplace and let's just say it's all, you know, a lot of forest and all that. And then we go back 10 years later and it's different. But if you don't live it, you don't see it day by day. And so therefore it becomes one of these, we don't get it. Oh, 25 years. Yeah, sure. I don't. So
It's the frog
I
in the
think that's,
boiling water.
say again.
It's the frog in the boiling water.
Exactly. And that's what it is. But he said that is kind of standard of how probably humans have been forever. Ailish, comments?
Sorry, I was just listening there, listening there to Linda, and she's absolutely right. But I think that when you use the word adaptation in relation to how we are going to adapt to the new circumstances, I think we also need to adapt to the new, the new media landscape. And if we don't, because it's so fast moving, it's moving at warp speed. And we have to move at warp speed as well. And I think if we can confound them, because often when I hear these people on the media talking about it, I can see that they don't fully understand what the heck they're talking about, and it ends up a bit of a word salad. But I think that if we can come up, and I don't mean just our group, but we involved in environmental issues, if we can adapt and come up with more precise, short sound bites, that we will get much more publicity for our message. And that way, then we can hopefully get more in-depth and meaningful and substantive talks, both online, on podcasts, on actual media that's out there, CNN and NBC and Fox News and whoever. But I think that we have to adapt our message, and I think we haven't actually done that. And I think that is part of the problem.
So Ailish, you bring up sorry.
Do you remember the commercial? It was a public service announcement years ago that had the Native American on the horse with the polluted river, and that had a dramatic impact. Impact on people littering and cleaning up rivers and stuff like that. Right. They could just bring that commercial back and it would help, I think. But it's like nobody's doing anything, and I'm not someone. I mean, I hate to be the one that says, well, somebody should do something, but I'm certainly not qualified to do that. But it's like that was an easy thing, and they still have it I'm sure they still have it in some file somewhere. They could trot that one back out.
Linda?
So I think,
could I just add, sorry, it's Ailish again. Sorry, could I just add that if we work with, for example, film departments in some of the universities to come up with a quick short video that we could send out to media, they would volunteer their expertise and their time and their effort. And I think that that's possibly one way forward. Sorry for interrupting, Linda. Sorry.
No, that's okay, Ailish. And I can tell you at the University of Florida, they're not going to volunteer their time. And also the media is not going to accept it. The media is driven by what I'm going to mention next. And that is the way our economy in the United States and much of the world is organized. It is an economy that is based on growth. And as long as there is an economy based on growth, we are going to continue to be materialistic, and we are going to continue to be focused on what makes money. That is part of the problem. Actually, I would say that's the biggest part of the problem. Until we can get a circular economy rather than a capitalist economy. And I'm not saying people shouldn't be able to gain wealth. They should. I mean, people should be able to work, earn money, all those things. But the way our economies are organized in this country and parts of the world, other parts of the world, it's all about growth. I mean, you look how we measure our politicians' success, our president's success. It is based on the GDP. It is based on job growth. It is based on all these things. That is the way our economy is. So if we stop buying product, then we go into a recession and everyone worries then. So we have to continue to make things and buy things. It's that making and buying and disposing of things that has caused a lot of our climate change issues. So I'll shut up because I got to go to another meeting shortly.
Linda, one more to add to that. There's a book that I listened to a while back called The Perfection Trap, I think it's called. And it starts out about, as a human, as a person who deals with perfectionism, but it morphs eventually about halfway through into the whole consumerism trap of this country in particular, but the world overall, and how that is contributing to most of our problems. And I don't know how we get past that, but it was really fascinating. Is there a book that you've read, or there's some you've mentioned recently, but I don't remember if that was one of them.
Yeah, I have some books, but they're in my office. So I need to, I'll get a list. I also co-teach a module on consumerism. So if you all ever want that, let me know.
Yes, we're looking for
take that
speakers.
module.
I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be
Really
awesome.
interesting thing.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's a good follow-up question then is, you guys are an environmental club, we're an environmental club, is what is it that we can do to make a difference? So it's one thing to go out and, do cleanup the shores of Indian River Lagoon, or to do beach cleanups down in South Florida. And so I do know that there's big efforts to do that, or to plant trees, or to do that. But I think the question really is, okay, so that's good, and all of us are doing that, but what can we do every day to impact this issue as individuals or as a club?
I would propose that, one, we model good behavior. We don't buy into the capitalist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean capitalists as individuals, I mean it as an as an economy. We don't buy into that. We reject that, right? We don't have to have a new phone every time a new one comes out. We don't have to have a new car every time a new car comes out. There are reasons to buy a new car and a new phone, but we can be a little bit more thoughtful about what we buy, how we dispose of things. I think that's one thing we can do, and we can model that behavior, which is always good. If you're out there picking up litter and you're planting trees, that's good. That's good modeling. Continue to do that. Those are things, if each individual makes a change, and there are 2 billion of us, that's a big change, right? Just simple things like, eating less meat, no meat Mondays, flying less. I have colleagues who are like climate change scientists. They refuse to fly. Now that's a hardship, because they don't go to all the conferences I go to. But they're modeling that, and that's because flying is just awful for the environment. And I'm learning more about that. I don't know a lot about it, but those are just a few things. And then I would end it with voting for people who care about climate change, people who understand that climate change is a real issue. Also, yeah, I'll stop there. I could go on and on and on and on.
Ailish?
I agree with Linda, but I would add that we as individuals should continue to educate ourselves and each other. And every time you get an opportunity to talk to someone about an issue that you have a fairly comprehensive understanding of, that you can talk about it rationally and calmly and but particularly knowledgeably, that you talk to people about your knowledge, about what you know, and without not preaching or even saying what they can do, but just setting the seeds in their heads, and that they might talk to somebody else. Because I think that the only way we're going to do this is through knowledge, and that comes to ourselves first and foremost.
So Linda's in extension, I don't know what anybody else is, but the other thing too is it occurs to me we should be trying to do more with our youth and educating them. I don't think our kids have no idea where food comes from. If it's not on a shelf, they don't know. They wouldn't know how to grow it. I don't know if there are in this area. I think I know in South Florida there are food deserts, and that there's been some emphasis on trying to build community gardens. I don't know about in this area, but that would be something that would be a possibility to look at food. I mean, I'm thinking very specifically about food, because in that process, you could teach people about soil. You could teach people about other kinds of, and the kids who are, so if you all decided to go in that direction, I would be happy to help. I mean, to be I'm a good laborer out there in the gardens and stuff. So, I think that is really a question into, I am not involved in SRAG. I don't have time. Is anybody here involved? Linda, are they doing anything significant? I shouldn't say like, are they? But I mean, what significant things might they be doing?
Well, I'm kind of new to the group. So I've only been in it like a couple of months, maybe. I don't remember exactly when, but they're doing things like they're holding a sustainability fair in Naples in October, I think it is. I don't have a lot of confidence that those things are going to change people's minds, because the people who go to a sustainability fair are people who are into sustainability. I think
Right.
one of the biggest things, like you were talking about food deserts, you were talking about kids knowing where their food comes from. Extension does all of that work. Extension does a monumental amount of work in those areas. And, you take like Broward County, for example, there's one extension agent that does that work in Broward County. Well, Broward County has what, 1.7 million people or something like that. How is one person going to make a difference? It's really challenging, right? So if people were serious about this, and this is where I say they aren't serious. If they were serious about this, they would be funding organizations like Cooperative Extension, who is trained and who does this work already, knows how to do it, already has the people on the ground. They just need more people, especially in these urban areas. So I think, somehow getting people to understand that it takes money to do this. If you're going to educate kids about where their food comes from, it takes money to do it. You can't do it for free. And because you just have to constantly be at it. You can't go in and tell kids one time, hey, your tomatoes are coming from a farm in Immokalee, Florida. That's not going to have an impact.
Yeah, they can't relate at all.
You have to keep at it, and so, gosh, you just hit my button, man. This is like one of
But
my.
Linda, why on earth isn't that one person in Broward County align with Rotary or other nonprofits? Actually, the people that I know doing community gardens is a nonprofit. They're not related to Extension at all.
Yeah, there are a lot of people doing this work. Yeah, besides Extension, absolutely.
Is it happening in Brevard?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
It is happening.
There's a school there's a school actually that focuses on farming.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Where
it's a private school, but even in the public schools, Brevard County Extension is in the schools. Well, one of the programs got cut because of funding. So again, money. But when I was in Brevard, I started a community garden down at Wickham Park. It's still rolling, I think. It better be rolling still. So yeah, I mean, that stuff's going, but it all comes down to money again, right? And so you're talking about being connected with Rotary, you're talking about one person that already has a lot of responsibility. And that one person is connected with a lot of organizations in that county, but that's a huge county. So you can't expect that person to be, hooked in with Kiwanis and Rotary. And it's just one person cannot do it all.
So that is
do it all.
No, I think it's definitely our challenge of we see these things coming. There are a lot of people who are in the science area that really see these things coming. And yet we get so busy with our lives that until it begins to impact us directly, then I don't think, I don't know where the change is going to come from.
I think it's going to come though. There's going to be a change.
It seems like the newest generation they've got a completely different attitude about a lot of things.
Yeah,
and
I
their
think you're
attitude
right.
is mostly you folks really screwed it up.
Hmm.
And we're
Mhm.
gonna fix it as best we can. So
Yeah.
that's my hope anyway.
Yeah, I agree. It's really gonna have to start with economy, though. It's really
Yeah.
gonna have to. And education. Don't get me started on that one.
So really, I think the intent here was just to have a discussion, which seems it seems that was a pretty robust discussion with a lot of. It was good to have an expert. Nobody said that there was going to be an expert on here. So Linda, thank you for
Linda's a
sharing.
stealth expert.
Huh?
She's our
What?
stealth expert.
Oh, you stealth expert, stealth expert. Yeah, I thought that was yeah, this business of urbanization. I'm seeing that even. I've only been in Brevard 4.5 years up from South Florida. And I have already started to see, I mean, well, this development that's happening here, taking away all this green space. And it makes me
Mhm.
sad because I thought I moved out of not civilization, I moved out of urbanization in metropolitan areas for something less impacted. And
It makes me want to
Just-
weep every time I see it. It just makes me want to cry when I see they've destroyed all these old trees or whatever.
Exactly.
It's just
Yeah.
like bulldozed
And think
everything.
about the habitats for the animals, because I live
Oh,
down by
that-
the river. And, you know,
yeah.
we see more foxes, more armadillos, more raccoons, and a lot more roadkill because they've lost their habitat. I mean, one of the things I made a note on is if we can all remember during COVID, how Mother Earth seemed to come back.
She healed, yeah.
Because
was healed.
she had a
Yeah.
chance, right? And then we went at it again. So, well, thank you all for this in discussion. What we should do, sorry, is see if there's something that our clubs could do together.
Yeah.
Because
Agree.
not sure what that is, but we'd have to figure it out.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having you back to talk about how many are in your club, Marcy?
We have 25 with a couple more coming in.
Yeah, that's about our size. We're 22, I think, at this point. And
Yeah.
this is a good turnout. This is better than we've had in a long time. We actually had 12 at one point, and lately we've only had 6 or 8. So I don't know. What do you get for turnout on your club usually?
Well, let's see, we meet at 7:30 on Tuesday mornings, and this morning we had 18, 19.
That's very good.
We had a club assembly. I think, you know, we really work overtime on engagement
Mm.
and connection and having people know each other. You know, which is, I mean, you know, that's what it's all about. I mean, if you go, you know, this year I'm in charge of service. And so, you know, I had to set up goals that had to do with, you know, trying to encourage people, like how many service hours, like we track service hours, how many service hours. Well, you don't want to go down this path, it's 5 till. But you know,
Well, maybe
again,
we can schedule for another time. and we
Marcy,
can-
well, the other thing is, if Marcy can share her link and we can hop on.
You're breaking up really bad, Julie.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's the same every week like ours. Perhaps.
we can't
I'll
hear
email
you.
it.
We can't
Oh.
understand you.
We can well, yeah, your internet's
breaking up.
really bad. So, yeah, I mean, I think we spend a lot of time talking about how do we make virtual work, because for some people it's the only option. And, you know, I think that, you know, for me, I made the decision not to join a local club here because I want to stay connected to my peeps. Kimberly.
I just had one comment because I've been listening to all this and nobody's really mentioned the issue that goes hand in hand with this, and that is overpopulation and the fact that, you know, many of us have traveled to other parts of the world. We've been to places where people literally live on the street, and we're asking, why can't these people care about what's going to happen in 25 years? They care
Yeah.
about whether or not they can feed their kid at noon.
Sure.
And so we're lucky in a way that most of us don't have that worry. And if we fail to take those people into consideration, and I'm not using those people in a pejorative way at all,
Right.
but the people who don't have the same benefits we have, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's 1 billion people in India. There's over 1 billion people in China. And and demographers have been preaching this for 50 years. I started reading those studies 50 years ago when I was, studying sociology and the rest of that stuff. So that's something that we need to take into consideration when we're thinking about this. I think it's great. I think every school, every house of worship should have a garden. Some patch of their yard somewhere should have a garden, and the parishioners or the congregants or the students or the whomever or the people in the neighborhood, every bare patch of land should have a garden on it. But we also need to consider people who just
Right.
they don't.
I mean, they're
patch of
busy
land
trying
is
to
their
live.
living room.
Right. Exactly. And I think you're right, because I've done a lot of that traveling too. And you talk to people who, they're worried about what's happening today. They can't, if they get through today, then they got to worry about tomorrow. So
Right.
they can't, I mean, that's the luxury we have of being in a first world. And even people in first world can't necessarily do that. So,
Well, and we think about, how many of us, 25 years from now, hell, I'll be 100 and whatever. So am I really focused on what's going to happen in 25 years? And if I
Right.
had young kids, I'd be focused on getting their diapers changed. So it's
Right.
hard for anybody, no matter where they live, to
Right.
focus on 25 years. 25 minutes is the best I can do.
right. Well,
Some days.
and then I just want to make a comment about Linda's comment about planes. And it's like, then when you see the hypocrisy of, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get a little political here, of John Kerry, who's our climate czar, flying all over the world in his private airplane. And it's like, huh? Like, to me, that's like, what, what you're not walking the walk. And when he says, he's been challenged on that, and his response has been, well, I need to get to these places and it would take too long. And it's like, yeah, but when you get there, it's just a lot of talk. Like, I'm really curious about, I know SRAG and I know Rotary was very involved with COP 24, whatever it is.
Yeah,
that they
COP 21.
COP 21, was most recent.
That's the one they were talking about in the
Video, yeah.
Oh, in the video, but I mean.
That we didn't sign on to.
Right, the US didn't, but there was a recent COP that
okay, right.
Rotary was very involved in. Barry was there, and I don't know who else, but anyways, it is 12:59. Not that I'm in
Yep,
charge
I
of it.
think we have to close. So
Doggone it.
Marcy, thank you so much. We'd love to have you come back. I'll schedule you again
All
to
right.
talk about ways to club engagement and things like that. And everybody loved it. I think that was great. And you're right, we had a stealth expert. I wasn't sure Linda was going to be here, but she's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So anyway, has anyone got anything else to add? We'll go ahead and
No, just great meeting. Thank you so
I
much.
know.
Come back anytime.
yeah, it
If
was
you'd like
great.
to meet,
And
if you'd like to
we'll
meet
schedule again.
at a normal time, you can join our club at noon.
I'm at that age where 7:30 isn't that early. Isn't that, yeah, 7:30 is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fine for me.
Thank
Well,
you.
I was going to say to you, Marcy, if you're living in Brevard County, what part of Brevard are you living in?
I live on, I am technically in Palm Bay, but I am in the northeast part of Palm Bay. I live on Indian River Lagoon, and I am 4 houses away from the Melbourne city line.
Okay, so you're in the posh area of Palm Bay.
Is that a posh area? I didn't know
Well,
that.
it's supposed to be. I'm in the southeast. This is southeast Palm Bay, and it would be interesting to get in touch, maybe meet for coffee or
Happy to
or
do
something.
that. Julia knows how to
You
get a
know.
hold of me.
Yeah, we can do it.
Absolutely wonderful. I'll get that from
Right.
Julia.
Okay.
You're on
All right.
DAC
Thank
TV.
you
We
so
can
much.
always
This
find
was
you.
wonderful.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
kids.
This was wonderful.
All
Thank
right,
you.
let's
Thanks.
close with our motto, service above self. Thanks,
Service
Marcy.
above
I'll be in
self.
touch.
Thank
Appreciate it
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Service above self.
Bye, everyone.